Hi, this is Steve. And this is Eric. We're from Undras, and you're listening to According to Metal.
It's time to give you some headlines. The metal news you need to know right now.
It is the latest in the world of metal news and headlines. It is Jason. It is I, behind the metal news desk, giving you the latest news and topics to discuss as organic as possible. Biv has no idea what I'm about to tell him. No idea what stories we're about to discuss. We're going to discuss those together and discuss them with you. And this actually piggybacks on a previous story we talked about in news. Or actually, I shouldn't even say news. This was a one-off topic that we did. And if you guys didn't get a chance to listen to it, go back and listen to it because it was actually really fun to do. A little longer than I think it should have been. But it was 45 minutes of playing a fun game. And you too can play it at home if you've yet to get a chance to do it. It's great for a car ride or it's the at-home game. Which is a great fun game called Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or Fuck Off. And, Biv, of course, was leading the game, and it was real simple. And of course, the questions were, is this band worthy of being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or should they fuck off? And speaking of a band that should have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, is nominated into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and actually, by time you hear this, likely has performed at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and that is Journey. But what's interesting about this, and by the way, that's a no-brainer, the fact that it took this damn long for Journey to get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, once again leads credence to the fact that Biv and I say it's an absolute piece of shit sham of a museum, whatever you want to call it. But, Biv, what I find interesting, and of course, this has been a relationship that's been very rocky and very on and off throughout the years, but it was confirmed by the keyboardist Jonathan Cain that Steve Perry, the infamous voice of Journey, will actually be there, present, and inducted alongside the rest of the band. And it's very likely that he will, that at least the rest of the band would like him to. There, unfortunately, has not been any comment as to whether he will or not perform with Journey as well. Because, of course, every band who's there, they have a mini concert and play some songs. And, Neil Sean and other members of the band would be like, hell yeah, we'd love it if Steve would join us. We just don't know if he would. We're not sure, what he's going to do there. But I found that really interesting that he's going to be part of the fold, because it's been a pretty rocky relationship on again, off again. And not just from Journey, but, Steve Perry's also been kind of weird throughout the years too. But he's also trying to kind of mount a mini comeback of his own. But what I also find really cool, and we've talked about this in previous news segments when we talk about like Blaze Bayley and Iron Maiden, in which no one really ever accepted Blaze to be part of the band. Journey fans have really taken a liking and have really accepted Arnel Pineda to be part of Journey. And Arnel freaking rules. Maybe that's why. But, when asked about it, Arnel's like, it's totally cool. I would be absolutely thrilled to be able to perform either alongside or a duet or however Steve wants to do it. I mean, he's the reason I'm here. So I just thought it was a really cool story about a band that is a long time coming of being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But interesting to know for those who are Steve Perry fans and for those who for some reason feel that Journey died when Steve Perry left. Well, maybe they'll be slightly revived in your world if they perform together here. And again, by the time you hear this may have already happened. So maybe we'll comment on a future news segment, but curious your thoughts on that, Biv. I mean, it's a long time coming for Journey, but also interesting that Steve Perry is going to join him.
Well, it is. Now, like you said, to what degree? This makes me think back to when GNR was inducted, and Axl was invited, but then he didn't come, and then they had Miles Kennedy, but whatever. And I think, when I think back on that now, and now here they are, they're back together again, just a few years later, I think this would be a huge missed opportunity for Steve and the band if they don't all do it together. And you're correct in your assessment, I think, of why Arnel is so well liked. His voice is phenomenal. He does a great job, and he's very likable. He's always said, if Steve ever wanted to come back, I'll get out of the way, or if they wanted him back or whatever, I would get out of the way. And it's a very humble attitude to have. But on top of that, the music that's been put out since Steve has left is still continued to top charts in parts of Europe and Asia.
Oh, yeah, man.
So it's not like they've died. Now, the music here in the U.S. has changed to such a degree that, well, quite frankly, the U.S. audience wouldn't know good music if they heard it. So, it would never sell here again the way our music scene is. But they're extremely well, or I should say, Arnell is extremely well accepted in other parts of the world. So, Journey should have been introduced into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame probably. Let's see, what was the first class what was the first induction class? What year was that?
Oh, I don't know. Late 90s?
I was going to say like 97, 99?
Maybe, yeah. I think it was the late 90s was like the first induction class. Because I know Van Morrison, I think, was like a first time. I could be wrong, but I want to say he was like the first class of bands and or artists to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I want to say was Van Morrison. I think he was in the late 90s, 96, 97. I don't know. Something along those lines.
Well, Journey should have been right there with him.
Well, I don't know if they would have qualified. Yeah, I guess they would have qualified at that time, or pretty damn close. Maybe a couple years after the fact.
Okay,
so
fine.
They have the 25-year rule type thing.
Yeah, early 2000s then.
Oh, absolutely. Fine. The fact that it got... But that's the thing that I've noticed with a lot of quote-unquote arena rock bands, which is unfair to call them that or whatever, but bands like Foreigner, bands like... there's a lot of bands that... Boston, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think neither of those are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see. I don't think Def Leppard's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, I don't get it. Unfortunately, there's so many bands in the late 70s, early 80s, and that kind of quote unquote arena rock scene that just simply get disrespected. While this is an interesting segment, guys like Tupac Shakur end up being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And speaking of Tupac Shakur, if you listened to our Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or Fuck Off segment, you heard me saying it's blasphemy that Tupac Shakur is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because he shouldn't be there. And if that's the case, then I demand that Sepultura is immediately inducted into the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. Only because I think why the hell not? I mean, if Tupac's in there, why can't Sepultura be in the Hip Hop Hall of Fame if such a thing exists? But speaking of Sepultura, some recent news and headlines in regards to this, and this has been an interesting story, and I'm a Sepultura fan, or I should say was, so I fall into this later category. And maybe I'll speak to this story a little bit more than you, Biv, because I know you're not a huge fan. But speaking of, and this kind of ties into what we were talking about with Journey and even Iron Maiden with Blaze and Bruce. Once Max and Igor, especially when Max Cavalera left Sepultura to, left the band and became Soulfly, and then, did his own side projects and his own thing with Cavalera Conspiracy and all the things that he's done ever since, Sepultura has continued to be a band. And Andres Kisser, who's, one of the founding members of the band also, who's one of the only stalwarts that stuck around, has said that those who have not listened to Sepultura after Max are really missing out because they're a really good band. And he makes a decent argument in regards to, look, a lot of people didn't like that Metallica did Load and Reload. A lot of people didn't like that Judas Priest did Turbo, but they're still great albums looking back and withstood the test of time. They're just totally different. Look at Black Sabbath. They changed a lot from, Ozzy to Dio, but they're still, a great band, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he makes a good argument. The only problem with his argument is Metallica still ended up being a good band. Black Sabbath, arguably, especially towards the end of Ozzy's time, I felt when Dio came aboard, it actually breathed a lot of new life into the band, which is the opposite of when Derek Green joined Sepultura, in which I hate him vocally, and I just think they're just completely uninspired. The main songwriter of the band was Max Cavalera. He left. Sepultura died, as far as I'm concerned, after Roots was released in 96. They've been dead for 20 years. Just the bottom line. If you made shit that was worth listening to, Andres, people would actually not write your band off anymore. The reason why you've become a joke of a band is because it sucks. It's not any damn good. And so when people are more excited about Max and Igor performing the entire Roots album as Cavalera Conspiracy because it'll actually sound like Sepultura once again, compared to the weird tribal Brazilian bullshit that you guys have been doing for 20 years, well then, maybe I won't write you off anymore. But as far as I'm concerned, learned. Now that I'm on my metal soapbox talking Sepultura, go away. I haven't listened to anything you've done since. Well, I've tried. Let's put it that way. I even actually checked out Machine Messiah, which is their most recent album they released in January 13th of this year. Still bad. Sorry, guys. You lost me. Bad. Go away.
Well, I will say that it is, sometimes bringing in a new band member, to your point, can, breathe new life into a band. And other times, it completely changes the writing process, and therefore the sound, and even the live presentation. So I'm not really, and never was, a Sepultura fan, so it's going to be very difficult for me to comment on this particular case. But I will say that I've heard enough from enough Sepultura fans to have to kind of believe what you're saying, because they all say the same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing.
They're not even close to being the same band. I mean, at least Maiden, you could not like Blaze's vocals and whatever. And yeah, there were some differences there, but it was still Maiden. We just talked Journey a little bit ago. Journey, even with their new album they released with Arnell, which is really good, by the way, it still sounds like Journey, They just don't sound like the same band. And even their live set has a couple of tracks from the Max era. The rest is all Derek stuff, and it's all bad. Sorry, just sucks. So maybe we wouldn't write you off if you wrote shit that was worth a shit, Andres, but unfortunately it's been 2 decades since you have. But speaking of bands that I dig the shit out of, I know you dig the shit out of, and also following up on a previous news segment we talked about here on According to Metal, we, of course, talked a couple of months ago that ARP, Axel Rudy Pell, was releasing a ballads album, which is interesting. And, of course, the one artist they were doing a song with, you were like, dude, come on. And that was with Bonnie Tyler, of course, of, Total Eclipse of the Heart fame. And I don't know, Biv, if you got a chance to see it, because the video has been released for Love's Holding On. It is the first single off of the new Ballads album from ARP coming out very shortly here. But the video of Love Holding On with, of course, Johnny Gioeli, who I have a man crush on vocally, and Bonnie Tyler basically doing a duet in ballad fashion. And as you know, Biv usually gets naked to a good metal ballad. Have you got a chance, Biv, to listen to Love's Holding On? Because I know you were a skeptic, especially with Bonnie Tyler. Did you get a chance to listen to it yet?
I have not. But I will say...
Dude, I think you will be pleasantly surprised, because Bonnie kills it, dude. She is incredibly good in this song. I'm dead serious.
I know this much. I need a Euro. That's what I need.
Dude, you need a Euro or a hero?
Well, I need a Euro.
I'm holding out for a Euro to the end of the night.
Have you not seen the Arby's commercial?
I have. But
it's awesome.
I'll tell you what, man. It's really interesting to see a band and a guy as talented as ARP releasing a ballads album, which, again, normally is right up Biv's alley. So we will be reviewing that here in a couple of weeks, or I think a month or so when it comes out. I'm trying to see. Let me check out the date really quick.
Well, while we're at it, why don't we put like Merle Haggard together with I don't know, Ice-T?
Well, Merle Haggard's dead, so that'd be kind of hard.
Well, okay, fill in country star here.
We could put in the corpse of Merle Haggard. We'll do like a weekend at Bernie's bit. Exactly. We'll just prop him up with Ice-T. Yeah.
Or you could
all lives matter, motherfucker. And Merle Haggard's there, and I don't know. That may be the first time I've said MF on the